Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords Podcast. And today I am back with a special guest. I have Tracy, who is a psychic medium and actually a grief intuitive. So she helps people through the process of healing with her intuitive and psychic abilities and really helps people get to know their process of this healing journey. So I'm very excited to have you here. Tracy, welcome. Please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all. My name is Tracy Turner, and I've actually been a professional psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and grief spiritual worker for about 45 years. I started when actually I knew that I was different when I was a little girl. I was about 4 or 5, and I started talking to God and those on the other side. And I remember being in first or second grade, and I was at school and I was in the bathroom. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And my grandfather came and said, "It's me. Don't be scared, but I've gone to heaven. And when you go home on the bus, your mommy's going to be crying, but you need to let her know that I'm in heaven and I'm okay." And I'm like, really? So I got home and I climbed up the stairs, and there the door was shut. And I'm knocking on the door, and she goes, "Leave me alone. I'm sad." And I go, "Why are you sad?" And she said, "Because Grandpa's not here anymore. He's died." And I go, "No, he didn't. He already came and talked to me. He's good. He's fine. He's in heaven. He's with God. You're not supposed to cry."
Wow.
And that was like the first knowing that I was different. But when I was really little, I could remember being a baby in a crib and knowing and looking at the wallpaper on the wall as a baby in a crib and saying, "You're going to remember this for the rest of your life. You're different. And I'm a baby. I could remember, I can see the lambs on the wallpaper.
Wow.
And I always was different, Catherine. And when I was young, I spent a lot of time in my room for some reason, and I'd look up at the ceiling and angels would come and talk to me. So fast forward, when I was about 12, I said to my mom, "Something's different inside me." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I hear God." And she goes, "Well, you need to go to Sunday school and talk to the rabbi." And I said, "What's he going to do for me?" She goes, "He'll either tell you you're hearing God or you're crazy." So when I was going to Sunday school, I said to him, "Rabbi, I want to be a rabbi because I know how to talk to God and I talk to angels." And he goes, "You can't be a rabbi. You're a girl. There are no girl rabbis, but you know how to sing, so you could be a cantor." And I go, "But cantors don't talk to God. They just sing songs." He said, "If you want to talk to God and tell people about it, then I suggest you convert when you're older and you become a nun."
Oh, wow.
That was the answer.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be a priest because women weren't priests.
Right.
So it was a very hard struggle knowing and understanding and talking to people that passed over. My room would be filled, wherever I was full of souls wanting to connect with other souls here. Well, I was born in 1961. My mother at 13 said, "If you don't stop this, we're going to put you in the mental institution, and we're going to throw away the key."
Oh, wow.
Because you're sick, you're not well. So you can't tell anybody about this for the rest of your life.
Oh, wow.
That was the threat.
Yeah. This, to me, this is so interesting of how like your journey just started at a very, very young age. And so when your grandfather passed, was this your first experience with death?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Other than hearing angels and hearing people in my room and being visited by all kinds of things, and especially God. That energy is bigger than you'll ever know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that was my first experience with death, but I wasn't afraid because he came right to me and said,
right. Yeah. I'm okay.
You need to help them.
Yeah, I'm okay. So with that, like being your first experience, were you at all sad? Like, did you feel that grief? Like my grandfather just, passed away? Because, as a young kid, I would think you would kind of have like these definitely like these really strong mixed emotions of energy. Like, what am I feeling?
I was scared, but I was more upset that no one would hear me.
Right.
When you're a child and you want to share, whether you see unicorns or you're playing with things that people are saying are not there, imaginary, I'll tell you what, children and pets and animals see things of the spiritual side that we are taught to shut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot of mixed emotions because you think that you're being bad in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. You think I'm not supposed to see this, so I better not say anything.
And then when you're told you can't say anything, that's worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel for me that I'm intuitive. Like I'm not a psychic and I'm not like a medium, but I'm definitely intuitive and I pick up strong intuitions. But I always say like, I am not ready. Like, I don't want to see, the souls or the spirits. I do feel that there has been times where I think my grandma came to me once and I was like, shut it out. Like, no.
So
Like,
with that being said,
this.
people come to me all the time and they sit down and go, I need to let you know I'm intuitive. I need to let you know the word intuitive and empath have become the big rage definitely over the last couple of years. I'm an empath. I go, well, that means you emotionally feel spirits on the other side or things that are happening. Right. You emotionally internalize it. Doesn't mean you're a psychic. The other thing is, let us tell the difference between a psychic and a medium, just for those that need to know. Right. A psychic is, in the biblical side, they call it a foreseer. We are able to go into past life, which is your reincarnation, your lives that you have lived before. We are able to see you in your present state, spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then we're also able to see the road or the path in which you may choose or should choose. And choice is the verbiage, because life is about choice. Yeah. But when God or those on the other side or your higher power shows you the choices that should be made or could be made, that's where we are spiritually guiding you.
Oh.
Again, lessons are not a choice, so they will come irregardless, and then you will choose to redo them or not. So that's the psychic part. Then the medium part is what's tied to the grief part, which is we are able to connect with those that have passed over, those that are on the other side. You could be a medium and not a psychic, but if you're a psychic, you better be a medium.
Oh, okay.
Because that's all encompassing the world of the here, the world of the after, the world of the spirit. And we are all written in the Akashic records, or I call it the Book of Reeds. Our souls have been imprinted, and a contract is given from God when we are to come to earth, all the lives we are to live, and when we are to send back to God.
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't know that the Akashic records really go with the psychic and the mediumship. Like, I didn't know that. I've, learned a little bit about the Akashic records from other podcast guests and stuff, but I didn't know the two really go together. So that's thank you for sharing that.
Because your soul is imprinted. So that
Oh,
also, when people are going through grief and they come to me, when they have an understanding that life is about a contract, other than if we commit suicide, and where we ascend to, other than if we commit suicide, that's why they're able to connect. That's a process of grief, is knowing, look, my anger with God, my anger with the universe, my anger in my grief is an emotion. It's not the contract that this person had with God. That's separate. My emotion and all the grief I feel is separate. But once they realize that person had a contract, it helps them also through the grieving process,
yeah,
which they're having a contract as well.
right, right. And I want to talk about like your journey, because your journey is so amazing. So, you were younger and then you realize, I have this amazing gift where I am able to see and also hear and view the soul's contracts, and even see people who have passed to the other side in the mediumship. How did you like balance all this energy? How did all this energy really, I mean, was it challenging growing up? I would
It was
think
very challenging growing up, but let's fast forward a little bit.
okay.
So after being told that if I mention it to anybody, they will throw away the key in the mental institution,
Right.
at 16 and a half, I graduated high school. Or 16, 15 and a half, 16, I graduated high school. So I was out on my own. My parents displaced me out of the home. So I was then going to college. Fast forward, I met my neighbor. I married him on a dare. I
On
only
a
knew him
dare?
6 months. We had a dare. We went to Vegas. I got married. Okay. So my first boyfriend, he was 10 years older than me, got married in Vegas on a dare. I then became pregnant as soon as I got married with my child, who God told me I would have a son named Joshua in kindergarten. As you and I are sitting here, knew it.
Wow.
So had my son when in fact, his birthday is next week. He'll be 41, and my birthday is the following month. I'll be 61. Had my son, and we both died during delivery.
Wow.
So this leads me to the discussion with God. The first time, I've died 3 times. Totally died. There was a signing as to who would live. They actually saved us both, but I watched them pull him out of my stomach. I watched the whole thing.
A cesarean. It was
a cesarean, but it was an emergency, and I had been in labor for 3
oh,
long
wow.
days. He died because the cord was wrapped around him. So he
Oh,
came
wow.
out purple, and I died. I watched them bring me back on the table, watched the
Wow.
whole thing unfold as God was sitting with me above. And he said, I am bringing you back the first time because you have work to do. And I said to him, what is that work? And he said, it is my work. You are to be the vessel, and we will have a contract at a later date. How do I remember that? I know it as clear as day. I know each time when I died as clear as day, this was a discussion, but it was no longer about the contract. It was about my work is not done.
So does everybody have that contract? Like when they go through the like when they pass over and then they come back to life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of death in my time because I worked as an emergency room nurse. And sometimes, I always would say that when the soul leaves the body, you feel that energy of it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
sometimes you feel the energy where it's like so beautiful and peaceful. It's
Mhm.
really hard to explain. And the room may be like chaotic but the energy of the soul leaving.
And if you're doing a resuscitation, you feel that soul come back in, do you not?
Yeah. You feel the fight. Like you feel the energy of the fight of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that area, or I don't know if there's times that they aren't really ready, or maybe they're still lingering.
Yes, that would be like in a coma.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I've done work where I've released souls for people over the years that their loved ones are like, they need to go and they're stuck. And I totally get that. And I've been called, oh gosh, I did it for years and years where people
like a
call
death
on
doula?
me. Yes, but we didn't have a word for it back then.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because the
So
souls are so like, I have tons of stories of people passing over while I've been present. And the souls, it's like they still have this somewhat of a conscious state. Like there's the story of this man who I took care of for almost like 2 weeks. He was dying and his family wouldn't leave his side. And I personally think he didn't want to die with his family right there.
that happens an awful lot. Most often than not, they don't want someone keeping them here. They're
Yes.
already, and a lot of people have already ascended and keep coming back in those moments and saying they won't release me. So many times I've had to show people how to pray to release that person and let them know you're keeping him grounded, you're keeping him here, but his contract, he's already on the other side.
Yeah.
Sometimes people with dementia go between here and heaven.
Oh, because he was, still alive. And then his family, Latin family, you gotta love the Latin families, they all want to be there, hold the hand, and
Yes.
everybody's there. And I think they went to the car to go greet
That's
somebody.
when he left.
And he left just like that within
because they weren't pulling him here. He had that window.
And the family was like, we were only gone for like 10 minutes. And of course it's like, that's what he wanted. This was his opportunity,
Absolutely. Because they're distracted and they're not pulling the soul to stay here. And God knows that door is open and there's some other people on the other side are there to bring us to heaven. We don't go by ourselves. Whether it's our angels and those that have passed over, they're there to open the door and bring us, and they'll grab us, they'll bring us with them. And they'll have to sometimes wait for the opportunity because people here don't want to release us.
Yeah.
So we wait for them to be gone.
Right. So how did you balance all your energy through this?
So
like, how did you balance this where you've been able to structure it?
So in the beginning, so I then had a contract with God.
Right.
After my son was born, I went through a really, really, really hard time and divorced my husband at 19.
Wow.
It was all on my own in San Diego. I was called to go to the window. Don't know why. And it was at night. And I hear the voices. And it's the voice of God. It's a different tone. And he said, now it is time. I go, I don't have diapers for my kid. He's like, now is the time. It is time for you to either make contract with me or it will go away forever.
Oh, wow.
So I said to him, in your divine light, and I remember saying, I don't know what I'm saying. In your divine light, I will and shall do your work for the rest of my being. So it is said, so it shall be. I had an unlisted number. The phone started ringing. People were calling me for readings.
Wow.
And I would go to a park with my kid and I would be giving people readings. I didn't know how to shut it off.
Oh.
When I first started, I gave someone a 4-hour reading. Didn't know how to shut it off.
Yeah.
In the beginning of when I started doing it professionally, because that's when it started.
So professionally, you started like at 19, 20?
Wow. Absolutely.
Wow.
That's Professional means a gift for a gift.
Right.
And I really had an issue with that. And God said, no, a gift for a gift. You're gifting them my words. They will gift you back so you can buy diapers and formula.
Right. So you can make a living. Yeah. Yeah.
I really had a struggle with that.
Yeah.
And he said, and I will lead the way. All you do is open the mouth. But I then was stuck between those worlds, like you're talking about.
Right.
I went back to God like a year later and said, please, God, I don't know how to shut it off. What do I do? I'll end up going crazy. He said, I will give you the prayer. You say the prayer I give you before you start. And when you finish, you will not remember anything in between. And therefore, you will live the life of a human and do the work of God. That's how I've managed to shut it off and turn it on.
Right. Right.
And I share that I now share that prayer with anybody who wants to do or feels they want or have a gift.
Yeah.
Whether they want to use it or shut it off, whether they're an empath, a psychic, a medium, if they, I share that prayer openly.
Right.
It's not just my prayer. I feel it's a prayer for the masses.
Right. And with grief and helping people, how has that been like your main structure? Because I would think most people really come to you when they lose somebody, right? That's when they're in their grief and really,
yes,
can't take the pain of the loss of their family member or person.
So when I do grief work, it's the same as if I give a reading. It's the counseling of the spiritual well-being.
Right.
When I do grief work, I bring someone to the beginning of when that person passes, whether they were murdered, whether they passed from old age, whether they passed from disease, or whether they passed from suicide. No matter what their age is, I chronologically go to heaven and look in the book of reeds to let them know why, how, and the reason of the passing.
Yeah.
Because they get past the denial stage, because usually when they come to me, they're either in the beginning of denial, the anger, or they're already, into the depression part and forgetting the bargaining part. When I always, it's funny, a lot of people, by the time they get to me, they've lost faith. Yeah. And here I'm a spiritual worker, and they've exhausted everything about life because they have emotionally tied themselves to the passing of that person. I then have to get them into the living again. So that's the first start, is to say, every day you live and breathe, God's giving you a gift. Now let's explore why you're feeling what you're feeling. And let's spiritually, not religious wise, but spiritually reconnect you with your faith and your higher power. Because by that time, they have no faith. God didn't take the person away from you as a test of your faith. It was their contract. A lot of people don't know that. So they assume it's about their faith, what they did wrong, their punishment for that person going to the next circle or phase of their being, of their soul. When you get them out of that, then they can start to live again. And it takes a while.
Yeah. How have you been able to live your life so insightful and optimistic and still have that positive mindset of continuing to be balanced in this world when you can see people's contracts and their life journeys?
Because it's our story. Life is the story of your soul. And the funny thing is people that think if you're psychic, you can see the lottery numbers. Right. If you're psychic, then your life is perfect. I got news for you guys. I have died 3 times, and the last time was 2 years ago, and I was in a coma for 45 days, and my stomach was open, and they said to my son, I wasn't going to make it through the day.
Wow.
And again, God contracted and said, you're not done. There's much work for you to do. You, as doing the work that I do, I, number one, don't remember my readings when I'm done or my sessions when I'm done. Number two, God has made my life 20 million times harder than anybody else's, because I walk the walk, I walk the path, so that one day if someone's been molested or raped or, anti-Semitic, or no matter what it is, I've already walked it. I've walked that. Yeah. That's been my life. Or that you've been in the hospital and all you wanted was someone to touch you, and all you wanted was a nurse during COVID just to touch you. And I wasn't even in there for COVID, but I walk it, I feel it, and I remember it, so that when God needs me to be sympathetic, empathetic, apathetic for somebody, I'm talking from genuine knowledge and experience of walking life. And every day I find gratitude. I find gratitude that I'm able to breathe another breath. I truly do. I find gratitude that my eyes are still working and that I can look at the sky. I found gratitude when I finally went and got hearing aids, because I've been reading lips my whole life and I've been deaf in one ear. Wow. And during COVID, couldn't understand a freaking word anyone was saying. And then I found hearing aids. I now am grateful. Does the deaf community accept me? No, but I'm grateful that I can hear.
Yeah.
So my life story and your life story is nothing more than you cannot handle. And our choices on how we internalize life, whether we want to call it trauma and live in our past, or we say, look what I walk through and look where I am today and look where God will bring me tomorrow. That's the spiritual side of who we are. Yeah. So I'm not just a psychic that has a crystal ball and a turban. I'm a spiritual being who believes that the world needs to look at itself and our souls differently, to change, to become better at the walk that God gave us. Yeah. Whether we're walking in grief or not.
And I would think, since you've been in this like professional sense for so long, do you feel like the stigma of psychics and mediumship, is it getting better, or is it still very much prevalent?
Well, when I started
society
back in the day, the local news wanted me on Halloween and New Year's so that I can show them what a psychic is on Halloween, or a medium, and wear that turban and crystal ball for New Year's to give them predictions. I have gone from being called a psychic to a clairvoyant to a new age, to it has shifted. But one thing I can say is, people that know me, and my clients have been with me for 30 and 40 years, people know me. And I'm not, it's no ego. The other thing is, your ego cannot be involved in what you're doing. This is not your ego. This is not about Tracy. This is about the gift that Tracy has to use in the right way, or it gets taken from me. That's very important. Has the world shifted? Yes, because it went from being something of the closet, and it's still, people still are weird about it, and they're woo-woo about it. And there's a lot of fakes out there, and there's a lot of young people that think because they can flip over a card, they can tell you because they memorized what it means. That's not using a gift. Right. But what I'm going to say is spirituality. So what I do is spiritually based, me, not into what other modalities or what other people choose to do, whether it's witchcraft or white witch, or it has become more mainstream.
Yeah.
So my client has gone from always being the 50-year-old or people my age. I now have young people that are walking a spiritual path that seek me out. So my demographics has changed. Therefore, it's become more mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. You think it's because people are breaking in some sort, like breaking away from the churches and the organized where
I
they
believe
see
so. I believe
they
that
see
they
it.
have found, yes, I believe that they have found, look, prayer doesn't have to be tithed. And to tithe yourself to the world in which we live in, you can give homeless people food. You can clean your closets and give that to, a woman's shelter. That's tithing. That's giving a piece of you to someone to help them better themselves. That's tithing to me.
Yeah.
People have realized that the church and organized religion has let them down because they have sought advice, and we see the corruption. So therefore they have broken down spiritually because, and this is my mantra, religion is man-made and spirituality is God-given. And more people are starting to realize I am the spirit of my higher self, whatever I believe in. And it's up to me to find that spiritual side. And that's what they seek, whether it's in grief, whether it's wherever it is.
Yeah.
So that's making the shift.
Right. And because I feel like a lot of people, when they're like, I'm embarking a spiritual journey or spiritual awakening or whatever it is, term that they use, it's like they believe that like some type of I guess you could say traumatic event or something has to happen, and that's not necessarily true.
That's not true at all. And there are people that come to me and say, I don't know how to pray, therefore I'm not spiritual. When you give thanks, and that's praying, whether you realize it or not. Giving thanks, gratitude, that's prayer. When you think of someone or the good of mankind other than yourself, that's spirituality. When the one thing that what the world has become is the me. Everything's about me. Spirituality is not about me. It's about what we give to others. It's about lifting and finding the best, and not in a plastic hokey way, not in like, oh, my life is great. It's about being real and living your best, highest good. So there's no really handbook to that. It's doing it. Sometimes for me, it's giving a smile to a stranger and saying, have a good day.
Yeah.
It's the small things that we have forgotten in life. And it's up to your generation, the younger generation, the babies to come. We've got to find love again. And that's finding your spiritual self.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a traumatic thing ever in your life to wake you up.
Yeah.
You're awakened every day when you put your feet back down on the floor and the new day has come. That's a new beginning.
Yeah.
Every day we get the chance to start over and make a difference. And, we live in negativity and we live in trauma because we choose to. It's easier to remember the rotten things that happen in our lives, and we want to live in that and be scarred because someone's got to pay for it, than to remember a memory. Memories should be good. And the more we rewire our brains, the less we'll be ill, and the more we'll live in the present of, I lived through that. I'm a warrior. God challenged me and I passed it. So therefore, every day is a better day than yesterday was. But we get more out of living in trauma. We get to use that as the scapegoat for everything we don't need to work on and live on in our lives.
Right. And I feel like with the spiritual community, it's almost come to like this point where it's like a sense of like trauma dumping, or my trauma is bigger than yours type thing. And I'm like,
And you know
why?
what?
I don't
And
understand it.
right. And that's why I am not associated with the spirit, any community. I am
Right.
a community of one, and I am a community of, if you don't like it, then fucking change it.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's my community.
Yeah.
And you know what? Tomorrow I may not be here. My job is to touch as many people and change as many souls into the positive that the light of spirituality is, or God is, that I can in that day. That's my job.
Yeah.
And if I don't do that, when I go over to heaven and I meet with God, I've got to answer to that.
Mm-hmm. Has there been like a story or a client of yours or an area where you worked through or showed somebody how to move past grief where you knew, like, yes, I'm living in my divine state. I'm living in my present state. This was gifted to me for a reason. And could you share it with us?
I have a present client that I'm working with. The funny thing is I met this person 35 years ago. Wow. As well as her husband, as well as her daughter. The husband was my client as well. And he came down with needing a heart transplant 3 years ago, right before COVID. I was unaware. Got the heart transplant of a 24-year-old. Was my client. So in that being said, the wife also came down with a disease. So neither one of them were leaving their house during COVID. Right. And they were coming to me for guidance on how do we get past this? How do we, so fast forward, they end up, he goes to the hospital and then he comes back home cleared because they thought he was going into rejection, starts throwing up and dies right there in front of her in the bathroom. This was 6 months ago. She called me as soon as he died and said, why didn't you tell me, John? You said he was going to live. What happened? His contract, what happened was the person he gave the heart, the boy that he got the heart from, their contract was up as well. Right. So the boy that gave him the heart, and his brother-in-law who died 90 days before him from a brain tumor, which was his best friend, they were both there because he turned to her and said, I'm sorry, I have to go, and died. I've been working with her through this, and her husband, every time we're working, and this is part of the grief work, they come through and they talk. They come through and they have conversation. So she's like, I've lost my faith in God. I'll give my life to have him back. But that's not where it's supposed to be. As well as her daughter, who was my client, was pregnant with their first child. So there's anger because she's pregnant and now dad won't be here when the baby is born. But he was in heaven playing with the baby because I already said he's playing with your daughter. Nobody knew that she was having a girl. He did because he came through to speak to me. So in their conversations, not only has she learned to love herself and stop being angry with God, but she knows whenever she wants to connect with him, not only is he giving her signs within the home, but it's confirmed when they discuss it together through me. And now they know that the granddaughter that just came has been with the father, the grandfather in heaven, because he was there upon delivery. And it's all confirmed. So now her anger with God and wanting to switch seats, she has now gotten better from her chronic illness because she knows that that's the only thing he ever wanted her to do was stop taking care of him and get better. She's fighting and she connects with him. Her life has become more enriched actually since he left. Because she's not in fear. And her biggest thing, the words were fearful. And I said, if you live in fear of either that he's going to die or that he did die, or you're going to go, or this or that, then you're not living your truest life. And that is not what God wants from you.
Yeah.
So, and it's on, the counseling is ongoing, but I will tell you, she went from being a woman that was bedridden to now she's running her company again.
Wow. That's
and
amazing.
now other people are like, how do you do it? And she says, Tracy, what do I say when they go, how do I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't know what to say. I'm in grief. I go, you're doing the best you can at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's all you could say. I'm riding the best day of my life right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And with just like with grief, it's just, I mean, because we don't know how we're going to feel when that stuff happens, and then when it happens, it's like, how do, so many of us don't know how to deal with
Grief.
the grief.
What we realize is grief is an emotion. And what I tell my clients first and foremost, grief is the opposite of love. If you did not love that person emotionally, you would not be able to grieve them. Give yourself permission to understand the love that you have for that person, not heroizing somebody, but the genuine love. Then we can address the emotion of grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in heaven, there is no grief. The emotion only in heaven is pure joy and love, because that's what comes from God. Everything that we learn on earth that's negative is a learned behavior. It's not what he brought us here in that light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We learn hate, we learn grief, we learn disappointment, we learn trauma, and then we embrace it for self-pity. But that's not what he brings us here as.
Yeah.
Those are learned behaviors.
Yeah.
So grief is a learned behavior that we need to understand and allow it. That grief never leaves your heart because that person touched you, but you can learn to navigate and open your heart up to heal, not forget, but heal to live your best and highest good.
Yeah.
On every aspect of your life.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so beautiful to complement it with the love that's, the opposite feeling is love. What would you say is like, one of the key things that you start people off with, like learning and moving past the grief as a psychic and a medium?
I let them understand the connection that they had with the person, is what I was just being told. Because I said prayer before I came here. I won't remember what I'm telling. This is all coming from God, not really me.
Yeah.
I said prayer before I start. I'll say prayer when I finish. But God says, let us understand our relationship.
Right.
Whether it's past life, well, it's obviously present. A lot of people also want to know, am I going to see that person when I pass? Thank you. The other thing that God says is on earth, and this is scientifically quantum physics, we have time and space. But when we're in heaven, there is none. So when people understand that they don't, oh, it's a year of the person's anniversary of death. Oh, it's 12 years they died. Those people on the other side, they don't give a shit about that. They don't care about the anniversary of their death, but we get stuck in it. That's part of our holding on to the grief. So when I let them know that in heaven, there's no time and space, and for you to say, will that person be there when I pass? Am I alone? Will they already come back to earth if you believe in reincarnate? I'm like, it's that quick. For us, it's years, but in heaven, it's that quick. Those are the first things we kind of navigate through. Right. And then knowing how they passed and why they passed and what about their contract, because again, suicide is a total different thing, because you're not going to heaven when you're in suicide. You've broken the contract and you've gone before your contract. So therefore you're stuck in the ethereal world. You're stuck between heaven and earth. That's how we find ghosts. And
Oh.
people will say, but I want to connect with them. You know what? Part of the, we'll say punishment, for lack of a better word, they can't communicate with you this
Mm,
way. So, and then letting people know from the person that passed over, signs that they're okay, signs that they may give you, whether it's the lights going on and off, whether it's a butterfly, a bird, so that and they're doing this for your comfort, not theirs.
Yeah.
So those are the first things in kind of grief we kind of work on.
Yeah.
So that the anger doesn't sit and resonate.
Yeah. Yeah. And let the anger and grief go.
That doesn't do you any good. It's not bringing the person back.
No.
And then opening someone up spiritually so that they can get messages from either God or that person, because they'll want to connect and leave you messages.
Yeah. So tell me, because this has been amazing. Like, I'm just like, wow, with all this information and just how gifted you are. Like, how do you structure your day? Like your regular day, your day to day?
My day to day, I get up and I have myself a cup of coffee.
Yes, definitely. Right. I don't think
that's
anybody.
My day right there.
Yeah.
I actually get up. I look at my calendar because people book ahead of time on my website. I don't have time anymore to sit and make appointments. I look to see what my day is like. But before I have my cup of coffee and before I look to see what my day is like, I give thanks. I give thanks because I do have health issues still, that I may have had a rough night, and I ask God to erase the rough night because I start fresh. But before I even go to bed, this is what I've taught myself, and this is what I try and teach others. You have a chance to reset your life. So your house should be picked up. The dishes should be already turned on. You should have the blanket from the couch already behind the couch. Your house should look beautiful. That's how I leave my house, because when I wake up, I've now reset my life for that day. And when I walk out, I don't see any chaos. I see nothing but the home I want to see, with nothing else reminding me of yesterday.
Yeah. A clearing.
It's every single day. It looks okay, we'll say model home, because chaos creates chaos in my spirit, in my mind, in my body.
Well, you're my husband's dream wife because I'm alone.
Nope.
Wow.
Because if you can't organize your outside, you can't organize your soul. And leave yourself open for whatever that day brings, because you're looking at yesterday's shit.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a total advocate, believer, spiritually wise, that my spirit needs to have a new beginning every day.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. And you create that through your space.
I don't have time for yesterday's shit, yesterday's news.
Yeah.
And that's the memory I don't want to look at.
Right. Yeah.
So even before I go to bed, my trash is out. That is because that's today, and tomorrow's a new day.
Wow. I've never thought of it like that. That is amazing. Okay.
So I get up and I put my feet down and I thank the universe. I thank God for me getting through the night and not remembering if it was a painful night or if I didn't sleep. Because what I say is, however I slept, however I felt, today is a new day. And I'm grateful for what will be today.
Yeah.
So then I get my cup of coffee, and then I sit down and I pray. And I know a lot of people meditate. When I meditate, I don't have any music on or anything. So it's more like prayer. And I just say to God, whatever and wherever I go today, whatever challenges I have in my life, let me learn from them. Let me accept the lesson. Let me pass the test, and let me get through this day adding value somewhere to someone else. If I have no clients, that's the time where I say to my higher power, put one foot in front of the other and let me start a new adventure. So this idle time is worthwhile for my future, because you've now given me time and space.
Yeah.
So allow me to create future for myself, whether it's writing letters or looking at classes in the mental health field or wherever it is. Bring me to where my future that I can help more people will be. And something comes about it every day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I do. And I try to be active, and I always take that shower in the morning, cold shower, and open my chakras. And I find gratitude.
Yeah.
And I look to see who's the stranger I'm going to meet today.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I know. I feel like each day is a new journey. I really enjoyed how you said how you structure your day of clearing from the day before, like clearing it all out. That's amazing. That's beautiful.
I have done that since I was young.
Really?
I used to clean my house before I went to bed at night instead of like during the day.
Yeah.
I would clean before I went to bed at night, because I truly feel that we need to cleanse for the new day coming. Right. And for what's to come. And that day, and it's always for me, and I always would tell my friends, we can bitch and moan and groan about whatever the problem is right now.
Yeah.
If today's a shit day, you can bitch and moan and groan, but come 12:01, you can't say a word about it. That's yesterday's shit.
Yesterday's shit. Yeah.
You're into 12:01. Now you're into a new day. Don't you dare bring that forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is true.
That's being in your spiritual self.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Now, sometimes we have to sit on something for 24 hours and not make a decision.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. You're working it, but you're not looking at the shit. Now you're into, I'm ready, God, bring me the answers for the decision. I'm in the next day.
Right. The next
new day, new ideas.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that's a lot of like the cleansing away that day, that old energy, and just letting it go. I really like how you said about removing the trash from the house. And I think, like a lot of people, because I'll be honest, like I didn't even think of it as that, but really that is just a practice that you do daily that clears your area of the old shit that no longer has a purpose anymore.
And then your day and your spirit is free the next day to not go back into yesterday.
Right.
You're ready to do whatever you got to do today.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't eat the pizza this morning. You ate it last night. Throw the fucking box out. It's got to be thrown out anyways.
Throw away that box. You don't need that college pizza hanging out on the stovetop no more, people. Yeah.
Because today you might want Rice Krispie treats.
Right. Yeah. Something new.
Absolutely. And, it goes back to no matter what, our life is a choice. So you could be choosing to be disorganized in your money and your body, your mind, your spirit, your finances, and people talk about the law of attraction. I've been doing that my whole life. I mean, that's like the new thing, right? I attract what I want to attract, but if my life is cluttered, I'm going to attract clutter in my spirit.
Yep.
So that's nothing new.
Yeah.
Same with our friends. Nothing new.
Nothing new. Definitely. You have to create your atmosphere and create it where you release that grief of the days before and move forward. I love that you brought that up. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I am so happy to have you on this show. Thank you for everybody who's listened to Chakras and Cusswords. And Tracy, let us know how we can find you, how everybody can reach out to you.
Thank you so much. You can get to my website, tracy-turner.com, and you can book on there. and I do in-person, phone, and Zoom. And then I send the recording to them because they only hear 5 minutes of what I say. And then they're
Right.
like,
Right.
and then I also do most Monday nights an Instagram live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for allowing people to jump on an experience with a psychic.
Mhm.
And my TikTok and my Instagram are Tracy Turner Psychic Medium.
Okay,
So they can
perfect.
find me on TikTok now. Once I get 1,000 followers, I can go live there.
Oh, I am going to follow you today, Tracy.
And then
Turner.
that way, when I get 1,000 followers, I can give live messages and debunk the old spiritual thing about psychics and mediums.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited that you're on TikTok. I think TikTok is definitely a platform that a lot of people are using. I mean, I think the engagement there for people is better on TikTok than it is versus on Instagram. I mean, you know,
And I'm an old
it
lady,
always
so
works.
I'm kind of new at it.
Yeah.
I only got about 500 followers right now, and I got to get to the 1,000. But then I'll give free readings there, just like I do on Instagram.
You will get there. Yes, they'll fight. Everybody go follow Tracy Turner on TikTok and on Instagram. And everybody, please comment, like, and subscribe to this podcast. And make sure to share it with a friend because we all need a little share. Sharing is caring. And share the podcast. Thank you so much, Tracy. And thank you, everybody who is listening to this podcast. And everybody have an amazing day.